when you enter the White House, eulogies are kind of the last thing on your mind. You're thinking about State of the Union addresses, moonshots, changing the world. You don't think you're going to have to write a bunch of eulogies. And then there's just this kind of increasing frequency of mass shootings. There were a whole bunch before Tucson, and Tucson in 2011 was kind of the first one that got national attention because a congresswoman was, shot in the head while she was doing an event, Gabby Giffords. Newtown, you had 20 little kids murdered in their classrooms, along with 6 educators who were trying to protect them. They just kept getting worse and worse. And, as president, it's your job to be consoler in chief. It's your job to convince people that the world will keep spinning, but it's also your responsibility to try to get people to change, even if the odds are stacked against you. And after Newtown, the president had just been reelected. Newtown was in December 2012. The inaugural address was coming up, and he decided to push his second term agenda a little to the side to try to do something about guns. Even though Democrats had nowhere near 60 votes in the Senate, and it was just an uphill battle, but you got to give it a shot. And in April of 2013, Republicans blocked background check legislation. They blocked a vote on it in the Senate gallery, while the parents of those Newtown kids who were murdered sat in the gallery and watched. I mean, it was just
to be clear, they wouldn't even vote on it.
Mm-hmm. They blocked the vote. To be totally fair, the bill they were voting on was co-sponsored by a Republican, Pat Toomey from Pennsylvania, who's a big time conservative, and there were a couple Democrats from redder states who joined Republicans to block it. But in the end, 90% of Democrats voted to move forward. 90% of Republicans decided no. And that was about as cynical as I've ever seen the president. That was about as angry as I've ever seen the president. He went out into the Rose Garden and gave this kind of fiery speech that I drafted one that was pretty fiery, and he had the parents with him and Joe Biden with him. And he didn't even edit it. He grabbed it from me and he was like, I'll kind of use this as a template, but I'm just going to go out and say what I want to say. And I was like, hell yeah. But he came back in afterwards, and he doesn't raise his voice often, but in the book, I said his words could have cracked the planet in half. He was like, what do I do the next time this happens? The next time there's a mass shooting like this? What, I just go give another eulogy? What am I supposed to say? We tried. We're not going to do anything about this anymore. And he had a point, there's there's still a predictable cycle after every mass shooting where, there's kind of this fog of misinformation, and then everybody's pointing fingers, and then the president goes and gives a eulogy, and we all move on. And I got a little resentful, which is probably unfair because I wasn't in any of these massacres, but that, we had to absolve the country of our collective sin after every single shooting, and then move on. And so I was with him. I was like, why do this anymore? It's sad and it's terrible, but unless America changes, why bother?